Okay guys, today we want to take this elemental and make it cool. Let's do it. Let's make a cool elemental out of these elementals. I didn't do this in advance to practice, so I don't really know what I'm doing. But let's do it anyway. So, looks like I accidentally closed the unit browser. Let's open that back up. So we're going to get ourselves the unit browser, and then we're going to go down here to the Berserk elemental. And then the question is, how are these things sorted? Berserk elemental, there we go. Well, you can see this is not working correctly. So, I think there's still a bug in my code that it ends up loading, it ends up loading this from the wrong place. So let's go get it from the right place. So in order to do that, what we want to actually do is get the data browser, because the data browser is going to have the data, it's going to have it in the right place. Because my unit browser isn't applying Reforged skins to things yet, so it just didn't work. So let's try that. I'm just going to open up the data browser, go to the HD section, and we're going to go to units, creeps, or elemental berserk. Looks like it isn't what I thought it would be, so let's just check its path in the editor. Oh, it's human. It's human berserk element. Sure. Okay. It's human berserk element. So it should open up. And then we just have the task of making it even cooler. Once it loads in. Alright, there you go. So here is it in the tool, in my previewer. You can see it doesn't quite look the same as it looks in the game. There's more work to do. I didn't code shining things yet. It's just kind of how that is. So yeah, here he is, and we want to give him like really cool armor. So let's try to get some armor from one of those Voidwalkers. And the question then is, do we want Greater Voidwalker or Elder Voidwalker armor? I kind of feel like the Greater one like fits the style. Let's start out trying with Greater. Obviously you can do either one, but let's try that one. So this is going to be in creeps, and then Greater Voidwalker. Okay, there you go. They just organized it by name. It's great when it just comes together like that. So yeah, here's our Greater Voidwalker, and you can see there the shoulder pads. And there's a little bit of a challenge in that, in this thing here, oh, it looks like they separated the pauldrons for us. That's kind of special. Okay, so basically just turn on everything except the pauldrons and delete them. And now we just have a model that is actually just a model of the pauldrons. And what we should be able to do then, and of course the glowing stuff, should be able to go back to our other guy and actually just click File, Import, and import the pauldrons. And see how that comes out. So import for Greater Voidwalker, and import the pauldrons for ourselves. Cool. So that brings this thing up. Now then you have to ask yourself, do we want any, we just leave all animations and leave all nodes. I don't think we need any of this other stuff. We just want the physical geometry. And you can probably just borrow its visibility information from this guy. If his geoset 1 is anything reasonable. Yeah, it looks like it's like part of his armor. Perfect choice. Alright. It's going to borrow visibility from that geoset 1, and yeah, it's complaining about animation, so it doesn't know how to animate these pauldrons yet. We're going to fix that. Great, so here are the pauldrons, and as expected, they don't quite fit and they're not animated yet. So we're going to have to animate them and fit them. Yeah, okay, there we go. So there they are, just floating there. So we're gonna raise them, and then for starters, if we select this left-hand pauldron, we should be able to say animate it onto it's either left and right arm pad, but that's not really left and right shoulder. So we want like up arm, left arm. We want up L arm, really. Or L up our arm. Okay. L shoulder? Maybe we want L shoulder. Let's try L shoulder. And then this one should be able to be R shoulder. What's up here? Where did that thing get off to? So there's L shoulder. R shoulder. There we go. So if we go back to the animations, they're moving with the shoulders now, and the next key is just going to be to move them out, I think. I did create some asymmetry by moving them manually out. But yeah, so excuse me. Now they're there, they're on the shoulders. Maybe one would be a little bit bigger. And I guess if we're going to do that, one thing that actually might be smart would be if we just make them bigger together, both of them at the same time. So now they're kind of like there, but I wonder, do we want them to be, go up there a little bit, just trying to make sure we position them in a way that is as cool as possible. It is currently the case that that other thing is spiking through it, but it might be fine. I don't know if that's gonna really show or not. Actually, that's just a part of the same thing. Yeah, okay, that's just a part of the same thing. So they're looking pretty good. They could almost, I could almost foresee like moving them down a little bit. Each one like down along the side in its own direction a little bit. But I think it's still pretty good. So we get to that point, then you gotta ask yourself, what do we have in terms of these animals? Oh, this is interesting. Very interesting. His shoulders scale, which we don't actually want them to scale. We want them to be pretty much consistent, and they are not yet. Okay. Well, let's see what happens if instead of the shoulder, we do the up arm. And we did try to move them down a little bit, so that might look good too. And maybe the up arm doesn't scale. And if the up arm scales, we're just going to have to introduce an anti-scale. So here we go. This is left up arm. And this is right up arm. Okay, that looks like it is no longer scaling. That's looking pretty good. So we moved him out and we made him move with his up arm. And now it's not really scaling quite so much. And so, of course it scales in the walk animation. That is interesting. So basically wherever we put them, they're scaling, which is pretty much unacceptable. Although I almost think that does that look better? Are they a little too big or not? I don't know. It's one of these things that it becomes a stylistic choice, right? Alright. I want to move them back out there, back out there. Maybe with the goal of moving them in a little bit on each side. So he's here and he's got himself these pauldrons. They look like they're going to fit pretty well, but he still has this problem that some of his animations change the size of the pauldrons. And yet the ones on his hand don't change their size, right? Because that would be crazy. Okay, good. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. So in general, we can make them not rotate. However, it isn't as easy as you would want it to be. So it means that each one of them needs to have its own bone. And I just got a huge lag spike trying to add that bone. But yeah, so each one of them has a bone, and you can name it whatever you like. Let's name this one R shoulder pad, and we'll name this one L shoulder pad. And then what you do is you set the parent of L shoulder pad to be like L up arm, and we set the parent of R shoulder pad to be R up arm. I'll do another lag spike as it loads. Great, and now that we did that, we're going to reassign this right hand shoulder thing. And we're going to stick that to our shoulder pad that we added. I'm going to take the left one. I'm going to put that on L shoulder pad. And this, we'll see, should be no visible difference. But what we've introduced should mean that we'll be able to fix it. It isn't fixed yet, but we'll be able to fix it. Right? It's like here at stand 3. You can see obviously what's wrong. They're scaling like crazy. But what we're going to do is we're going to save it as boss elemental. And we probably want to save it in a different folder, probably documents, Warcraft models. Great. So here's boss elemental. It would be really good. We could put it in this request folder. Okay, so this is this boss elemental. And now what I'm going to do is go back to this thing, to the boss elemental. And the key is we got to find those shoulder pads we added, and we're going to fix them up. And from code here, I'm going to put don't inherit scaling, which means that they don't scale in the manner befitting of the thing that they're attached to, assuming that that works. Which should mean, if we look at stand 3, that they will float around with his arms, but they won't scale with his arms, because obviously scaling with his arms is bad and not what we want. It also looks like that may have made them bigger. Maybe they were already larger, and I just didn't know it. Yeah, so as you can see, they now don't scale with his arm, but I am beginning to think that maybe they should have been attached to his shoulders, and they've gotten a lot bigger, so we can tell that they were previously scaling down, but now that's no longer the case. So here are the pauldrons. This one really looks off, you know? Doesn't this one, like, we full screen this looks off compared to the other one, and we can just drag it down and try to make it even and not off. I think that's good. Okay, but the main thing we were going to do is we want to get our nodes back, which are now part of the node tree, right? R shoulder pad and L shoulder pad, and we're changing the linkage. So R shoulder pad is going to link to R shoulder, and L shoulder pad is going to link to L shoulder. So it's a little bit different than it was before, but I think maybe that's okay. Great, and let's check out how that animates. We'll see if we've just kind of fixed it to be pretty much how we want. Yeah, so they've moved to not where we want them, but that's probably fine. The general pattern with which they move is pretty okay. Well, that one's a bit strange. Did I get them backwards or something? No, they're not backwards, are they? At least I don't think so. But it's an interesting thing. And they're definitely too low. So turn off sure how to avoid it. Maybe it's okay, the way they kind of float away from his body. It's just a little bit interesting. I'm second guessing myself, thinking now maybe I should put him back to the arms instead of the shoulder pads. Sure, it's a bit of a tough call. That doesn't seem to be a perfectly right answer. Alright, well, I guess the other question is there anything else we want to add to this guy? So, we said, yeah, we're going to do that, and we were thinking maybe he wants a channel animation. So, this brings up the question, how should that look, and can we easily animate him to have it? So, we could save this as boss elemental too, just for making sure we have a backup. And then I'm going to do some model viewing and try to see if I can view, is there anything that does like a really good channel animation? Maybe the Voidwalker, I don't know. Like the Greater Voidwalker, what kind of animations does he have? Oh, that's right, I deleted it. Okay. Well, I guess we won't be using that. Let's check out this Voidwalker here. Curious if he has a stand channel. Okay, so here's this Voidwalker. And now my question is, does it have any kind of cool spell animation? Well, it has spell, but it doesn't have stand channel. Okay, so that's not got what I was thinking of. I could totally foresee, like if you go to the boss elemental, makes a lot of sense to me that he could look really good if he had a channel animation. It was just a little bit different than the way the spell works. You know, all of these, he's doing all that stuff. What would happen if we go into the animation stuff, and I'm going to close this data browser because it's showing an editor, which I don't really want. We're going to take walk and we're going to duplicate it and we're going to call it stand channel 1. Great, and this is stand channel 1. So this is an animation that we can customize. Basically, if you toggle on the nodes, you can see that, except not the collision shapes, they're obnoxious. So here's him animating, and what we want to do is basically say, while he's doing this kind of animation, we would prefer that all of this arm of his was rotated up. So let's see if we can do that. Rotate up. But in order for that to work, we also have to translate. This is going to be up here. This is going to be up here, right? Like we have to like just move the animation data around. How do you suppose that'll look? It'll probably look bad, but let's see if we can find out. Let's see. Yeah, he's got like one frame where his arm does this. So, given that we only have one frame yet, let's keep working. Try to raise his arm a bit more. Oh no, we double moved one of them. We don't want to double move. Okay, so I moved his arm up more. But really, it looks like, you know, like I want this three-dimensionally to be more like that. So now we've got his arm up, and now the key is, can we copy it being up like that and then put it on every frame, copy paste in the whole animation, so that he keeps his arm in the air for us as though he was channeling in a way that should look cool. Okay, let's find out. Yeah, so the concept is there, but obviously the arm is too stationary, which is bad. Definitely suffers from being a little too stationary. While the rest of him is moving too much. So I wonder, they really make it harder to animate models in Reforged than in non-Reforged. That's kind of my takeaway of these things. Okay, I'm gonna move this out a little bit. Seems more natural. But even then, like, the way that this is being done by me is wrong. Because it should be moving with him, right? Like, each time he moves a little bit, this thing should move a little bit. And so that's part of the problem. Why it looks, you know, like, eerily fake. But also because a number of other things. I guess this needs to go back to where it started from here. Sure, so like now he's kind of channeling. It really looks pretty bad. My attempts to edit animations on Reforged models they've not been super great yet. In general, my skill in doing that has been still in the works. I wonder, I really wish there was like something that was already animated in some way for us. That would already do this for us. This seems like it needs about a half turn. Well, you know what? Here's one thing that's wrong. This copy operation copied position, and really, I just wanted to copy translation. So that's not quite what I intended. Or no, rotation. I wanted to copy rotation, which I didn't do. So then this moves out there. What do I really want that to do, right? Like, I feel like we wanted to rotate back a little bit. You know, yeah, kind of like that. So he is kind of channeling, but it just still doesn't actually look good. Let's see. No, I did that the wrong way. Let's do the other way. Yeah, like I'm trying to cover his arm now with the shoulder to just like make it look less bad. So he's kind of like got his arm up like he's channeling, but it just, that arm is squashed looking. And I think what it comes from has got to be this. Yeah, I guess it comes from this, which is interesting. So part of the problem might be this thing. Now I'm doubly rotated in the other guy. Now if I copy that rotation, and paste that rotation to every frame without pasting position, this is what I should have done on some of those others. Okay, so now his arm looks way less squashed. I consider that successful in many ways, but the shoulder pad is too rotated. So we go back to this where it's kind of like maybe that shouldn't even have rotation going on there. Well, I guess it should, but it just needs to be a little bit better. Because you look over there and it's just straight away, and really what we want it to be is it's kind of like that, right? Kind of, but not. So now it's up. But if I think about it from above or something, it's like bit. It's just kind of floating away from him in a way that's unfortunate, though. It really is. It's like, if I was here, you know, we'd want to rotate it down. But when doing that, now it's pointed up too much. And if I could see where it was from the front, maybe I would rotate that too. It's just floating way off. I'm really missing out on being able to just bind it to his shoulder, which feels like something I should be able to do, and it's not what happened here. I just move it over there. I mean that is a little bit better. That is a little bit better. So here he's trying to channel, and now the question is, can we give him something in his hand when he's channeling? So for that, what if I make one of these flat weapon emitters with like a purplish magic, you know? We give him some purple magic, spinning channel magic. The parent being, should be left hand. And it only shows up in stand channel. There you go. So we add a particle effect to his hand. Now it's a little too low. It's not really in his hand. I wanted it to be in his hand. So we can go back to the editor and say, okay, phone hand left. I really want this particle right here. Maybe if I just turn off all of those. Look at where this, right? Like we want it in his hand. But actually, let's not do that. Let's put it in his hand here, just functionally, in terms of its starting point. Now he's kind of got this thing in his hand. And I'm starting to realize that maybe I don't actually want it to be a flat glow like that. So let me just add one of these. No. I was thinking one of these was a shimmer that wasn't flat. Maybe not. Maybe it's just flat all around. We can make it not flat. So the way to edit the particle then is you just save it to a text file again. We can go in there and we can change the particle. So emitter, stand channel magic, right? This has this concept of latitude, which I think is the amount of a circle that it makes, and it's making a pretty flat circle. And I feel like if we just type in a different number, we can make it a circle. I'm forgetting if that's 90 or 180. You can just test. Oh, that's still pretty flat. All right. Also tag it as monospace. Oh, it's tagged as a line emitter. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe this could still be 133 and it just shouldn't be a line emitter. Alright, let's find out where we're at. Yeah, there you go. See, now this glow just shoots out in every direction. And now the only problem with it is that it's like too bright and stuff. And I feel like it needs to have like a more color variation. So for that, we probably want it to do some kind of kooky, crazy color stuff. And then the other thing I think we're going to want to do is make it not only change its color, but also maybe have another on top of it or something. We'll take a look. So now it's like this. So I made it a little bit more varied in color. There's still the fact that I don't know if I like that or not. But it seems like his this glow could be duplicated, right? Like the stand channel magic. We have a duplicate function. We can make a second one of these and then separate them. And then this gives us the ability to file save, bring it back in, and make the second one, instead of additive, we'll make it modulate, and then we'll make it really dark, which points out it's probably using Clouds 8x8. We probably need to load Clouds 8x8 mod. I'm not sure if that exists in weather. I think it might need to be textures. Cool. And we can go back to the particle emitter. We can go back to the modulate one. We can change the texture ID to 112. Okay. And then what we do is we just open it up again. Let's take a look. Does that fix it? So that it looks better now. Well, interesting. We have variation to it, but it seems to be squares. Let's try putting it in the game and see if that's actually true, if it's actually squares in his hand. So we'll save this to a binary file. And we'll try putting it in this map I was testing with here. So for this one, Boss Elemental 4. Let's give it a test. We have our boss guy. We're going to have him be a little bit bigger. And he's going to use this imported model. Boss Elemental 4. Then what we do is we go and get our custom guy and make sure we're on the tile set that has it. Cool, so here's our guy. It's this guy with that guy's shoulder pads. But how does he look when he does stand channel? So for that, pirate animation is channel. Should make him do stand channel. And we have the question, are these things streaks or squares? Well, they are kind of streaks. So there's some oddity to the shape of his arm, but in general, it gives him the ability to do a stand channel if you wanted it. Maybe you could make it like, it would be reasonable if you edit this animation more. You know, if the user wants to tweak it, has a specific use case, they want to make it like better or something. I could totally foresee doing that, just kind of editing the way that he animates there. But he does have this new stand channel animation, if there's some way that you can use that. Other than that, there's a guy with shoulders. It does make me wonder, should we be trying to add more than just shoulders? The shoulders alone look pretty good. Really, I think if there's anything questionable about it, it's just that that interesting stand channel animation. But yeah, there you go. This is how you make a good boss elemental, and maybe we'll make an even better one in the future.